you're talking about deal sizes here that could be tens or hundreds of millions of dollars, and if the marketing strategies and campaigns that you identify are in that existing company aren't good, or there's some bad apples, or there's great opportunity, like really the value that you're contributing, I think, could be very, very significant in helping that PE firm to decide whether or not to move forward, and then how to best make use of that investment, or how to grow the value so they can cash out at a time down the road, right, at a significantly higher valuation. So how do you think about pricing when you bring your team and you guys get involved? Is it on an hourly basis, a daily basis? Is it kind of like ROI or value focused? Just love to kind of know what your thoughts are, or what your strategy is when it comes to pricing.
Really good question. So the pricing part to me is connected to the product side, and the product side is connected to understanding the market. So on the market side, like before we even got through to pricing, is really understanding what are the things that are motivating these investors to be able to make the decisions. What are their incentives? What are the things that keep them up at night? What are their goals, dreams, ambitions, right? So for a PE investor, or like just an investment firm in general, you raise money from a fund. People give you money to buy and sell companies. When you buy a company, you have to grow it. If you don't grow it, you're not going to be able to generate a return for your fund. If you're not able to generate a return for your fund, you're never going to be able to raise more money in the future. So that's the connected cycle. So we get their incentive structure there, and we want to bring them as much value as possible to help them be successful. Then when a transaction happens, there's a bunch of financial dynamics in terms of how money moves or exchanges hands. So by understanding those dynamics, being able to price in a model that gives them the right type of leverage and the right stage. For example, if a firm buys a company or offers to buy a company, but the deal falls through, it's far more expensive for them to hire us than if the deal doesn't fall through. So we have contingency-based pricing that gives us a lot more upside once a transaction gets completed. So understanding those dynamics is critical, because until we understood that contingency-based pricing component, our conversion rates on deals was lower for a due diligence engagement, for example. And then the last piece I would say is just the productization. Is we have those two offerings that I mentioned, but every engagement looks very similar in that we're end to end. We have step by step what we're taking each company through, and that's what we pitch during sales meetings. That's what's in the SOW. That's what's happening during the engagement. That's how we wrap up the engagement. And there are times when we're more perfect than others, but the whole point is that like the expectations are clear in terms of what we're selling, and then based on that, the price is based on the value. So it's never based on time. We actually don't bill by the hour. There's no mention of number of hours on an invoice ever. Most of our engagements are prepaid. They must be, because I mean, we're putting in hours into the engagement, but also just it's like you're buying a premium service, and that's kind of connected to the positioning aspect of it too. Like you have this massive problem, it's worth hundreds of millions of dollars to you. If we solve it, that's what it's worth, and so you should be willing to pay for that, and so our pricing reflects that. So I mean, our average deal size is at least 100,000, and it can scale up from there.
Got you. And so what do you say to, because I think a lot of people will be interested in this, when a new investor, someone that has not worked with you, a new PE firm, let's say, or not new, but new in terms of working with you, says, well, how long is this going to take? Like you're giving us a quote here, it's going to cost $150,000. Like how much time is this going to take? How many hours are you guys going to spend on this? What's your reply to that? Because you're not basing your fees on hourly, which is great, right? You're more focused on value and ROI. What's your typical response to someone when that kind of question comes up?
So I think in most cases the question doesn't even come up, because the stage has been set in a certain way that everybody understands the value that's going to come. So when we're going through the deck, like the price, there is a transparent pricing slide, but I don't even pull that up until we've talked about the pain points, understood their business, tailored the presentation, talked about the productized offering, and then we're talking about the pricing. If it does come up, my answer is, look, we're building a recurring asset for you here. And so we don't price based on time. In fact, some engagements, we might think it takes 80 hours and end up taking 200 hours. It varies. So it wouldn't even be the truth for me to give you an exact number here, but the whole thing that we're trying to drive towards is objectives. So management by objectives. So the objective here is we want to build a system to drive demand. And for that, we need the data framework in place. We need to drive demand gen. We need to set a content roadmap, make recommendations on budget. And those are the outputs that you get. So that's how you measure whether or not you got the value back, not the time. And you can get plenty of people to work for you for more hours, but the number of outputs that we're giving out, you're not going to get that, right? So that's kind of how we position it.
Got you.